What is going on, guys? This is going to be a super quick one. Today I'm going to show you how to achieve the effect that you just saw that was applied to all of that footage. So I'm just going to use this first shot here. Basically all we're going to do is click Option and drag up in Final Cut to duplicate your clip. Go to your effects, go grab some Gaussian blur, put it straight on there, and then you're just going to go change the blend mode to lighten. And that already looks, pretty cool to me. Obviously this is aggressively blurry, so there's a couple of different things we can do. Number one, I'm gonna go into my color and exposure and everything here, and I'm not gonna drag this all the way down. Instead, I'm actually just going to take the darks and the grays down a little bit. The settings that I have for this are going to completely vary depending on your footage. So for the project that you just saw, this is what the settings were. Then you can actually go over here back to your effects and even increase this a little bit to your liking. Once again, the footage you just saw, this is what the Gaussian blur setting was. Then I'm going to go over back into my color, and I'm actually going to go to the color board here, whatever it is in your editor. You can do the same thing and go over to the master adjustment, and you're just going to put it all the way red as you can pretty much get it. This is what's going to create that sort of red glowing halation in the highlights, and so we can see this by turning this clip on and off. It's pretty subtle right now because we're still dealing with log footage. And what we're going to do next is convert the footage to Rec 709, and we're not even going to use a LUT here. We're just going to do this completely in-house, no plugins at all. So this is the adjustment layer I used in the project. I've just pasted it, and I'll show you what the settings were. So I've actually just increased the saturation 100%. Then the shadows, midtones, and highlights look like this. So you can see this is after, before, after. So this is looking pretty good. This next adjustment layer adds more saturation as well as some color grading. So again, since we aren't working with a conversion LUT, you'll need to add back quite a bit of saturation. So I believe I added another 40% saturation. Then I've also gone into the color wheels and tinted this a bit green. If I reset this, you can see what it would be looking like before. I think that green is what gives it that sort of more film aesthetic, at least for me, in my opinion. This is pretty much all to taste. In the tutorial Ryan Nangle gave, he just simply used the teal and orange effect, which is native to Final Cut. Personally, I'd rather make this myself rather than try to use one of these preset effects that colors your clips for you. I think it's better if you just kind of make it yourself because all footage you work with is going to differ. The last thing on this one is I did add some hue saturation curves, so I can just undo these and see what it looks like without them. Really, I just desaturated the blues, and then I actually did create a bit of a teal and orange look here, and you can see mostly with this taxi down here. If I turn this off, you'll notice the taxi is changing back to that sort of mustardy yellow, and with it on, it's more orange, and the sky is a bit more teal. I didn't want to go overboard with it, so it still is pretty subtle. Lastly, I put a grain plugin. Again, this is just the native grain plugin that comes with Final Cut. I think I've just left it all the way at 100. Personally, I don't love this plugin. I think it looks a bit fake, and I would use a better overlay or maybe DaVinci Resolve if I was going to do this professionally, but for sake of this tutorial and this video, I think it actually looks great. So that is pretty much how you achieve the film look. I can show you the same thing really quick on and off for a few more shots just to see more dramatic difference it's making, because it's definitely a bit more subtle with this particular shot. Here we have the shot of this train. Next, we pasted on the Gaussian blur, again with the light and blend mode. This particular shot had a different opacity and a different amount of Gaussian blur applied. This is going to vary for each clip you use. Then one by one, I'll bring over the other adjustment layers. Now you can see that we have our saturation back, and you can really see the halation coming through. I can even just turn off this top clip just to see what that's really doing. This is probably the most important part of creating a very believable film aesthetic, is good halation. This clip you can see a lot better. This really brings out the film aesthetic in my opinion. Just that little bit of orange in the yellows, and then we're tinting the whole clip a bit green and also adding even more saturation. To me, this looks amazing. And of course, lastly, the grain. This is what's going to give it that final touch. You could also add other film elements, of course. For this particular video, I decided not to, mostly because there really isn't much else in Final Cut, and as promised, this was all created within Final Cut, no plugins whatsoever. And I think you can do the same in any other editing software. So if this has been helpful for you, drop a like, Let me know in the comments what other sorts of tutorials you want me to make, and consider subscribing to my channel if you want to see more content just like this. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.